Everybody, welcome to Drive-Thru Review number 400. Today we're going to talk about New York 1901. This is a new game from Blue Orange Games. It's coming out right about now. It plays 2 to 4 players in about an hour, and it's a Euro, but it's kind of an old sort of throwback style Euro. What players are trying to do is build up their skyscrapers as well as some well-known skyscrapers in the New York landscape during this time period when skyscrapers were starting to arise in the cities around the world, and trying to score victory points, some area control, and some other different things like that. But let's go into how the game actually works, and I'll tell you what I think of it. Okay, now here you can see everything in the game that you're going to get. I've got this set up for 4 players. Like I said, it plays 2 to 4 players. In a 2-player game, you basically remove all of the plot cards that are representing this pink area. Otherwise, you include it with a 3 and 4-player game. Now, as you can see, the players will get buildings in their color, and then there are also, if we take a look over here, a set of 4 of these well-known skyscrapers, and players can build those, and then will mark them with a little trophy in their player color. You can only build 1 of these special black ones there. In addition, players will have a little hand of 3 cards that you can see in their player color. I'll show you these real quick. Now, these actually are all the same, and these are 3 special actions which I'll talk about that you can do once per game, and then you discard the card out of the game. Otherwise, these are worth 1 point each. Now, the other thing players will get are these little character cards, and these do have colors, but you don't have to give the green player the green one, and you just kind of randomly shuffle these up. These are going to tell you where to start on the board. You actually will take a plot card. You can see those over there. They'll always be 4 of those face up. You'll take one of these out of the deck that matches this color here, and we can see here this Beauregard. She's got a little symbol. So if the blue player received her as the character, then he would take his starter building and put it on little 2 spaces there. You can see they're matching her symbol there, and that's where the blue player will have a little bit of a start. And then you just turn this over. This tells you basically the 2 actions that you can do on your turn, and you go ahead and just play the plot cards as you play them. You'll just put them on this card. So during your turn, you have 1 of 2 possible actions. The first one will be to take one of the plot cards, which I'll show you, and then possibly put out one of your workers, and then possibly build. And the other thing you can do is you can overbuild, sort of demolish, and then rebuild and build up bigger skyscrapers. So let's take a look at the first action. So here we'll have a display of 4 face-up plot cards, and there's 2 types. You can see this has a 3 size plot, and these have 2 size plots. Now there's 2 types of 3 size plots. You have the corners, you can see like this here, that's a corner, and there's also the straight ones there. So if we go down there, you can also see that's a straight one. So what this is telling you is that you can take one of your workers, let's say you were the red player there, and then you can take and put them onto a particular plot just like that. So let's say we were the red player. We took this card here, we'd put this on our character sheet, and then we could put our worker out in any of these size 2 blue plots. And you can see the plots there divided by dotted lines. So I could put this here, I could put it here, 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 anywhere like that. If I took a 3 size plot, then I could put them here, and I would be sort of controlling that for the time being. So after you put a character out, or worker out, then you have the opportunity to build. And very simply, I could put this guy out and then immediately overbuild it with this building here. And you can see this will give me 2 points, and it is a bronze building. Now there are also silver buildings. Here's a 2-point silver building, and then there are also gold buildings. You can see this one here. This is a big 8-point gold building. So you cannot build though the silver or the gold buildings until you score some points. So forget that for now. Let's say I did that. I put the worker out, I put the bronze building there, and I would score 2 points. So here you will move up your cool little skyscraper mini, and then you'll go up to 2 points. Now, I mentioned before you need to score points to build the silver, and then later on the gold buildings there. So once you hit 6 points, then you can start to lay out silver buildings on the board. And then once you hit 18 points, you can start to put out the gold buildings. Now that's kind of like the basic game. And I should say there is a basic game, and then there's like a basic and advanced. I would just play 100% full bore the advanced game. Now the advanced game, you actually have to get to 10 points before you get the possibility to build silver buildings. And then all the way up there, you can see to 25 points before you can build gold buildings. I much prefer that style of play to the basic game. But be that as it may, play either way you like, and that is what you need to do to unlock those different building types. Now, you don't necessarily have to build after taking a plot. If I had taken, let's see, this little red plot here on a turn, and then I took this one later, and then let's say I had unlocked the silver buildings, then I could go ahead and place this. So you can always place on top of previously placed workers, and you might do that. You might just go and snag a lot that's convenient, or maybe you see that the yellow player is starting to build up here, so you might take something that's sort of adjacent just to kind of block them, and maybe you have an idea to build something there. So you don't have to build, you just have to put a worker out matching the color and the size of the plot card, and then you can, if you want, build over anywhere other spot that you have workers, and of course you score the points there. Now, the other thing that you can do is you can do a demolish. If you do a demolish, you don't actually take any plot cards, you just will overbuild the top of previous buildings. So let's say I wanted to do a demolish on this turn. I'm not going to take any plot cards, and I'm going to play down this 8 here. So this is actually going to go over the top of that. These workers will go back to me, and then this will get discarded out of the game, and then I'll get my 8 points. Now, you can build on top of silvers only with gold buildings, and you can build on top of these little bronze buildings here with either silver or gold. You can't overbuild gold with gold, or silver with silver, or bronze with bronze for that matter. And you can, you saw in that example, actually build over workers. The rules are kind of wonky in this part, but I had to watch some other videos and stuff actually to see, like, because we played the game wrong the first time, and then I was like, this doesn't make any sense. The game wasn't fun at all. And so I did some double checking to make sure we weren't playing it wrong. And so you can actually build over part building and part worker. So that is actually very, very interesting in terms of, you know, locking down areas and considering what other players might be trying to build, because everybody's got the exact same shapes of buildings, and you're trying to sort of time it to as you unlock these different levels. And the idea is to get rid of all your buildings and put them out. So once you've scored points here, you know, for your 5 silvers, they're kind of done for you, depending on some of the end game bonuses possibly, and you want to upscale them and have some of the different shapes available for some of these funky shapes. So there's some interesting stuff to kind of learn as you play the game a few times in that regard. Now, I did mention these black buildings before, and these are considered just very special gold buildings, and they were follow the same rules as, you know, other gold buildings you can build over the top of silver. And as I said, you go ahead and mark one of these. So if I built this big Woolworths building, then I would go ahead and get 13 points for it. Now let's take a look at these 3 bonus cards. As I said, they're worth 1 point at the end of the game if you don't use them, but you probably should use them because you can get a lot more than 1 point from these. So what this one will do is this will allow you to actually build 2 buildings. This usually comes in handy when you're doing the first action where you take a plot card and then a worker, because you can have a lot of workers out and then bam, lay down 2 buildings. Now you can also do that as part of the overbuild action, but you can't demolish more than one building on a turn. So this usually comes into play when you're doing that first action. Now this one here will actually allow you to clear off the row of these plot cards and then draw 4 more new ones if you don't have anything that looks really cool for you. And then this one here allows you to actually take 2 plot cards and put out 2 workers. But you can see if we zoom in a little bit here, you can't take a size 3 plot card. So you have to take 2 size 2s. You can't take one of these size 3s. And those are the 3 special actions. Now if we zoom in out a little bit here, we can see that's pretty much the game. You're going to be taking plot cards from here and then playing workers out and possibly buildings and then demolishing and then overbuilding. Now there is one other thing to consider. You can see these bonus cards here. So let's zoom in on these, and these are going to add a little bit of end-game scoring. Now you're always going to have 3 of these street cards up, and there's a little tiny deck of these, so they're not always going to be the same every game. You can see this is Wall Street with 5 points. This is Broadway with 5 points. These look really nice. So if we look back over here, we can see Wall Street here. If this was in play, if we had this Wall Street card in play, whoever has the most total buildings, doesn't matter size or bronze or silver, whoever has the most total buildings there is going to get 5 points. And if there's a tie, then everybody will get the 5 points. So there's always going to be 3 streets that are kind of like the key streets that you're trying to get some extra points for. Now we also have these sort of bonus challenge cards, they're called. There's always going to be one of these. This one, for example, whoever has the most bronze gets 5 points, the most silver or the most gold. Each of those players, or maybe the same player, will get 5 points. We've got another one here. This one's a little interesting. Whenever you build a gold skyscraper, you're going to get 1 point for each of your opponent's skyscrapers. That's silver or bronze. That's right next to you. One more here. You can see this is ×2 gold. So for each district that you have two gold skyscrapers in, you're going to get 3 points for each of those. So there's a few of these to sort of change up scoring as well. Okay, so that is New York in 1901. What do I think about it? I really am infatuated a little bit with this game. I'm excited to actually play this one more and more and more and more because it has some dynamics where it leaves it up to the players to really drive and explore the game. Whereas it's not so much like an engine builder or something like that. It's more of, you know, me versus you kind of thing and what I'm trying to do, what my choices are. Because you can be really nasty with this one. Even in a 2-player. Now, in 2-player, you almost have to force the nastiness onto the game. But with 3 and 4 players, this just kind of naturally occur. So something you got to be aware of. Because like I was saying in the walkthrough, you can go in and just jack a spot from somebody. You're like, oh, they're kind of building up there. They're going to try to get in their little squiggly one, or they're trying to build for one of the really big ones. Boop, there's a worker right there. So that's going to block them from getting out some of the bigger shapes and the more funky shapes. So that's very interesting. But then at the same time, you're kind of considering where the bonuses are at, what are the cool streets to be next to, and you're trying to set up your own little, you know, wedges and things so you can get your buildings out. The game says that it ends when one player has 4 buildings left to build, or if you run through the draw deck. I don't think you can run through the draw deck. I mean, maybe, but it's always ended with the 4 buildings for me. And so you have to be very careful about when the game's going to end as well and how much you kind of drive that. It's very interesting. So it's one of those games where you can kind of come at it and play it in a lot of different ways. The more you come at it, you can kind of go very quickly getting all your little ones out, or you can kind of save those for later when it gets really tight. So there's a lot to explore, and I really like that about the game. It's very open-ended. You know, it's super simple. It's like 2 rules. It's like put out a worker and maybe build, or demolish and build. That's it. That's the entire game. So it seems like a really basic sort of gateway game, but I wouldn't really classify this as a gateway game because you can be so cutthroat about it, and because, well, see, you could be a gateway game. It just depends who's teaching the game, or who's learning the game, really, because, you know, people are just going to be receptive to different things. So I think it could be a gateway game for some people and then not others. That's really wishy-washy, but that's what I think. And so it's got that exploration aspect that's really cool, where it's not just like me exploring, pulling levers and stuff all the time. It's me exploring, you know, you punching me in the eye, and then me, you know, shivving you in the gut. I mean, and the next time we come at it a different way. And so it has a lot of that stuff in it, and I really enjoy that. But again, super basic. You can play it easily in an hour, no problem. And it's just very cool. It's sort of got that cool abstract-y thing, but I don't know. So it's one that I think players should play, and play a few times before you kind of figure it out. Because I've played it now 4 times, and I really feel like I can play it at least 4 more, and probably a lot more beyond that, where I can just, it's a good quick gateway-ish game that I can bring out, and we can just kind of play around and see how it goes, and, you know, who blocks who and all that kind of stuff. Speaking of player count with this one, I would say it's a 3 and 4 player game. It's okay as a 2-player game, but it's just okay because, like I said, you kind of have to force the interaction. You can just stay far away from each other, even with the trimmed down board, not really touch each other, and kind of interact at the end of the game. Not really. But with the other player counts, you're going to have to force the interaction. It's going to come from the game. It's going to be hoisted upon you, and you've got to understand it and deal with it and be ready for it. So I think it's really a 3 to 4 player game. But if you want a nice little quick brainless sort of game that when you play 2 players, this would work fine. So by brainless, I mean you don't have to worry about the other player. So anyway, I recommend this. I was kind of surprised by how much I really enjoyed this. So take a look at this New York 1901. The other note I should say, my colors on my pieces are a little bit off. The red player, which I was showing you, is kind of brownish. And I think this is like an early production run copy. So the publisher did say, hey, that's not the real color that's going to be. So you will have like a good solid red in your copies. So anyway, take a look at it. Thanks.